Welcome everybody, my name is Josh and today I want to discuss my personal top 10 favorite songs from the band Rush. This is just my own subjective list, we all got our own personal favorites. That's the way it should be. It's totally cool if you agree with some of my picks, that's awesome, but it's also equally awesome, I actually personally think, if you have other choices as well. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. As it is mostly the case when it comes to thinking about my personal top 10s of any given topic, my number 10 spot is the hardest one to decide on. At the end of the day, I reserved this spot um, for a track on one of the more underappreciated earlier Rush albums, and that's Carrots of Steel. Now, I personally love essentially the whole album. I even like I Think I'm Going Bald. It's not exactly Neil Peart's greatest moment of his, of showcasing his lyrical genius that we know he is, but it's still a fun tune. But the rest of the album, I totally love. And yeah, I could have picked pretty much any of the remaining songs on that one, but I went with the one that I just always have such a fun time listening to. It's always enjoyable, and that's Lakeside Park. I just totally love Lakeside Park. It has such a great riff to it. The instrumentation is awesome. I know Geddy personally thinks it's kind of a lousy track, but whatever. I really like it. I also like his vocals, the lyrics. There's a warmth to this song, right? That always sets me in a great mood, and it's always enjoyable to listen to. I think it's a great contribution to that album. So yeah, my number 10 spot is Lakeside Park from Carrots of Steel. Now, going forward, those remaining nine I will be talking about were always pretty much set in stone to be in my top 10. So, depending on the day you asked me, I could shuffle around the order a little bit, but this is pretty definitive. And yeah, coming in at number 9 is one of the biggest radio staples, absolute classic, and that's The Spirit of Radio from the Permanent Waves album. Um, yeah, one of their big hits and staples. And if I were Rush, I would love the fact that this is one of my biggest songs because, yes, it's very accessible, just a fun tune to put on, but it's still got all the smart, intelligent arrangements, sectioning, and structure you come to expect from a truly great Rush song, right? The boys show off all their capabilities, all they got in store, right? Essentially, the instrumentation amazing. Geddy's voice is great and chock full of energy. And yeah, I just think they are firing on all cylinders. And often with those classic bands in particular, you kind of get upset about their most famous songs because it's like this doesn't even show off their full capabilities, right? Why is this more famous than all these other great ones that are so much better? But this is a case where Spirit of Radio is an upper echelon Rush song. It's a great representation of the band's talents and capabilities, I think. And yeah, The Spirit of Radio, great song, um, comes in at number 9 from the Permanent Waves album. Alright, my two favorite Rush albums of all time are Hemispheres and A Farewell to Kings. And my number 8 pick is from A Farewell to Kings, and it's the title track. Always loved that one. I love the lyrics. I think Getty sounds great. I think, again, the structure is amazing. It's always an immensely enjoyable tune to me. And it's one of the prime examples. I touched on this a little bit earlier on The Spirit of Radio, but the pure genius of this sectioning is always incredible. It's always astonishing to me, because, in particular with this song, the way it always flows into the chorus is amazing because it feels so perfectly constructed while still having the sense of spontaneous. It feels spontaneous. It gives this song a vivid feel. And a lot of these Rush songs, they feel alive. And yeah, it's hard to explain. Maybe you understand how I mean it, but A Farewell to Kings is a great representative of that. I love that tune. And yeah, A Farewell to Kings from the A Farewell to Kings album, coming in at number 8. As for my seventh pick, uh, this could even rank higher. Depending on the day you ask me, this can be really difficult to decide on, the exact order. But it's one of my favorite instrumentals of all time. I'm talking about La Villa Strangiato from the Hemispheres album. I mean, what can you say, right? I don't think I ever listened to an instrumental by any band, not just Rush, that I enjoyed more. Maybe a couple, a small minority I like maybe fairly equally to it, but never have I experienced one that I like more. Um, I just think this is a 10 out of 10 perfect instrumental, showing off the three musical geniuses that the guys are, displaying all their capabilities on this instrumentals, and yeah, it all comes together in this perfectly constructed, perfectly structured, and executed masterpiece of an instrumental. It's amazing. It's what more is there left to say, right? It's probably one of the prime examples by any band. It shows you don't always need the song text, you don't always need lyrics, you don't always need vocals to tell a story, to take the listener onto a journey, and deliver such an experience. And yeah, La Villa Strangiato from Hemispheres is my number 7. Love it. I think you will agree with me that my number 6 spot is quite interesting. Um, we're going to the Moving Pictures album, my third favorite Rush album of all time. I love it. It's their biggest seller, and of course, it has a number of notable tracks, right? Some of their most famous songs, in fact, stem from this album. Well, my pick is actually a rather deep cut. My favorite song from this album, I guess I kind of give away, which songs might not be in my top 5 going forward, but at number 6 is the song Witch Hunt. Yeah, this is not even one of the longer Rush songs. It is like around about 4 minutes long, yet it is one of the most mesmerizing and most haunting songs they ever recorded, ever. I think it's incredible to me. From the opening, how it builds up, how it builds tension and the atmosphere. It's one of the most atmospheric Rush songs of all time. Getty's vocals, the lyrics are brilliant and still relevant to this day. There's some parts of the song um, that are unforgettable to me. Especially in regards to the lyrics, but the sound, it all comes together. Into this masterpiece, in my opinion. It's one of their most unforgettable tunes. Whenever I listen to it, I get the same experience again. I re-experience this pure mesmerization. Um, yeah, I don't know how else to describe it. It's absolutely, maybe it might actually be their most purely haunting song ever. And again, another candidate where I'm like, this could maybe even rank higher, but it is what it is. It's definitely one of my favorites. Coming in at number 6, Witch Hunt from the Moving Pictures album. For my number 5 spot, let's go back to the Hemispheres album. Again, maybe my favorite Rush album of all time. And, well, it's funny. This is Rush at their proggiest, probably their most progressive album of all time. And my pick for number 5 is the least progressive track, least proggy track on the LP. And that's Circumstances. Simply love it. It's a 3.5 minute barnstorming, hard rocking tune, but still with many different things going on, right? A lot of really smart arrangements, fantastic structure. It's totally Rush, but it's also totally rockin'. I just really love it, and I know it feels kind of oddly placed on that album for some, but I think it's great to add some variety to the album, and uh, I would never take that one off from that album. Yeah, and the lyrics, the chorus, it's really memorable. It really sticks in your mind. Yeah, Circumstances, one of my favorites, uh, starting off my top five. Speaking of absolutely great hard rockin' Rush tunes, the same can be certainly said for my number four. Let's go back to the Fly By Night album. The second studio album by the band, and the first one with the late great Neil Peart on board. My number four pick is the title track. No, it's the opening track. I like Fly By Night too, but the opening track is where it's at, and that's Anthem. And what an anthem indeed. It blows my mind every time I listen to it. I get incredibly excited, It fits right into my sensibilities. I like hard rock. I like. That's an understatement. I love hard rock. I love heavy metal and Rush, you know, coming into these, specific genres or attributes of those genres with their own capabilities, with their smartness, with their way of arranging things. It's just a barnstormer. It's impeccable. It's the band firing on all cylinders. It's also not just from the instrumentation but also the lyrics, and one of my favorite Getty vocal performances of all time. When he shrieks in that song, right? Wonders in this world. I want to shriek with him. It's incredible, and never get sick of that tune. Just that's what music is all about. Evoke such exciting feelings. And that's what this one does. It's incredible. Um, yeah, my number four pick. Maybe a surprise to some, but yeah, Anthem from the Fly By Night album. Now, as much as I love all of these previously discussed songs, in particular, Anthem is one where I'm like, part of me wishes I could place it higher, but you know what? The top three are the top three. It is what it is. And, well, my number three is actually one that probably for many um, would rank as number one, and I could not argue against that. Um, it is from the album with the same title. I'm talking about 2112. It's one of the most iconic prog epics of all time for a reason. It's a masterpiece of the genre. It's mind boggling actually. How does a band come up with a piece like 2112, with all of its different parts, that all vary from each other but fit perfectly into this cohesive narrative and take you on this one journey, right? It's just astonishing. And and you never really get tired of listening to it, right? It's 20 plus minutes long, and it's really a great ride throughout, and it just captivating, incredibly captivating, and yeah, of course it had to be on this list, and I totally love it. It's incredible. I like the number one and number two more, but 2112 is a masterpiece. And again, I would not argue with anybody who would place it at number one. Um, yeah, 2112 from the album 2112 coming in at number three. All right, these following two could potentially flip flop any given day. Um, the main reason why number two sits at number two and not number one is because for number one, I kind of cheated. I admittedly did. And, you know, give me that leeway, okay? But I just had to. But number two is pretty much equally brilliant. Let's go back to the Farewell to Kings album, another one of my two favorites. And I'm talking about Xanadu. Xanadu might be the most perfect composition a band ever did. It's wonderful, it's beautiful, right from the start, where it builds up and captures you with this beautiful arrangement and incredible atmosphere. You know, it feels very pleasant in a way. It feels really like an experience, right? This is a song that is truly an experience. That's what people are talking about when they say, man, this song is not just a song, it goes beyond that. This is the kind of song that Xanadu represents. And yeah, again, if not for my little, cheating around at number one, this would be my number one. It's absolutely perfection. But yeah, Xanadu, definitely a top two Rush song of all time for me. Um, and it's one of the ones that I first think of when I think of the band, right? It's one of the first ones, absolutely, if not the first, that I think of. Because again, it's just the most beautiful song they maybe ever created. Yeah, Xanadu from A Farewell to Kings at number two. Now we get to number one. And well, I already mentioned a lot how A Farewell to Kings and Hemispheres are my two favorite Rush albums of all time. And well, they have one storyline in common. Some of you who maybe watch this video have already guessed it probably, but I'm talking about Cygnus X1. Book 1, The Voyage, / Book 2, Hemispheres. Yes, I'm cheating here, but is it really cheating? Come on. Come on, give me this. um, Absolutely incredible. My favorite prog masterpiece by the band. It's just, The Voyage is incredible. I think sometimes it gets a little overshadowed in comparison to Hemispheres. I think they are both equally brilliant. The Voyage is much more atmospheric, you know, much more dense, right? Like there's something heavy about the atmosphere. It's very atmospheric, and uh, but still got great lyrics and amazing vocals by Geddy, especially when he shrieks. You know, it feels really impeccable, and I just love all the choices that were made throughout this composition. And the book two is equally amazing. Even a bit more lyrical based. Um, but I love the lyrics in general. The story. It's very science fiction based. I love what Neil Peart came up with here. Um, and yes, I think putting these two together, right, it's my favorite Rush song of all time. Which is funny because the two are actually quite different, right, from their flair. Much so like the albums in general. They have a kind of different DNA. You know, both are the band, in their during their most proggy period, but they have a distinct flair that vary from each other. But together they make one incredible story to me. Um, Really one of my favorite prog masterpieces of all time. And yeah, that's my number one. The Cygnus X1 storyline. I could not resist. Now, how about some honorable mentions? I like to do it that I pick up to one per album. Otherwise I would just run down the whole albums. Especially those classic ones. And yeah, so my first honorable mention from the first album. It's a great debut album, great hard rocking album. Obviously the band went into quite a different direction, but a classic in my opinion, and the best song is clearly a Working Man, if you ask me. Uh, Funny enough, Geddy Lee himself says that's his favorite track to play live. So yeah, it's a great track. That's another one that's probably in my top 15 Rush songs. I love that one a lot. And yeah, going over to the Fly By Night album. How about By Tor and the Snow Dog? A lot of deeper Rush fans often go to that one when it comes to Fly By Night. It's a really great track and sort of the first sign of what's to come, in the sense that it gives you the first hints at a more proggy version of Rush, I would say. Carrots of Steel, I already said I am a big fan of that album, essentially of the whole thing. As an honorable mention, it's tough to choose, but Best Till Day I love, but ever so slightly I'm gonna go with The Necromancer, because I think that's a forgotten epic. It's really great. It's really proggy, really dense from the atmosphere, and it really tells a story. It's a real journey. It's a real. It's almost like a Rush episode you're watching. You're listening to, I should say. Love that one. Um, Yeah, 2112. How about Passage to Bangkok? Classic. Always love the killer riff, chorus. The whole song is very memorable. Like it a lot. Going over to the Farewell to Kings album. Um, how about Cinderella Man? Really love the track a lot. It's quite underappreciated, I think. Um, even besides Xanadu and The Voyage, most people otherwise think of Closer to the Heart. It's a really fun, more poppy Rush tune, but I definitely prefer Cinderella Man. That's a really, really cool tune. Really solid. Uh, and yeah, now to the Hemispheres album, of course, there's just one left, The Trees. That's a really cool tune, very proggy, and again, incredible atmosphere and the message, behind the lyrics, kind of cheesy maybe, but it works very well, still relevant today. I like it a lot. Um, so yeah, following the Hemispheres album, let's go to the Permanent Waves record. How about Jacob's Ladder? I often like to call it one of the three essential Rush instrumentals. Of course, it's technically not, you still have some Getty vocals here and there, but it has the DNA of a instrumental. That obviously La Bella Strangiato, the best one, and YYZ from the Moving Pictures album. Those are like the three, right? People think about, I would say. And Jacob's Ladder is another great tune, another top 20 Rush song for sure. Uh, yeah. Um, Now to the Moving Pictures album. Uh, Also, one of my absolute favorite Rush albums. Of course, it was their bestseller, and that for a good reason. It has a number of really big songs for the band, which I really listen. I really like Tom Sawyer. I really like Limelight, but my second favorite song from the album is Red Barchetta. Always loved that tune. Um, just quite wonderfully arranged and structured. Um, I just think it encapsulates, the Rush moving into the 80s, but still having the influences from before. And Red Bachata is just a great song. That might actually be my number 11 pick. It kind of pains me to leave it off because it's so great. I haven't even talked about, the great melodies that so many of these Rush songs have. And Red Bachata uh, also wonderful, melodies and harmonies between the vocals, the music. It's a wonderful song. From the Signals album, which I personally have come to really love. Um, it's easily my favorite past, the Moving Picture album, and I really like it a lot. And it's funny, that album to me is so strong as a whole, right? I rarely listen to single tracks from it. If I listen to Signals, I kind of listen to everything and totally enjoy the experience. But if I had to decide on one, it's definitely the Analog Kit. I mean, right from the opening, so unique, right? Absolutely Rush showing off their change of sound, and it's absolutely working, right? Quite beautifully. The structure and sectioning and the chorus, the harmonies, melodies, it's all there, all working. Like that one a lot. The Grace Under Pressure album, another really solid album, I think. Past the classic era. And my favorite from this one is probably After Image. That's a really, really solid album. A song, I should say. It's kind of haunting yet beautiful, right? That's the thing about it. I like it a lot. And then we have, of course, Marathon from the Power Windows album, which I know some hardcore Rush fans really love, and others not really. Like it's kind of a little controversial, I guess. I really like it. Um, Not as much as Grace Under Pressure and such, but it's a really intriguing album, and yeah, Marathon is easily my favorite. That's a very special tune, right? I totally get why to some it's a very special song, and to me as well. Really like that one. And yeah, that's it for the honorable mentions. There are a number of albums I still really like that follow. You know, uh, you know, from Snake and Arrows to their last, which was actually really solid. And the final one was a great one to go out on. But yeah, I just don't want to list simply the whole catalog, right? That would kind of defy the purpose of this show, or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, let's run down quickly as a final my top 10 again. Number one, of course, the Cygnus X1 storyline, the Voyage slash Hemispheres, from A Farewell to Kings and Hemispheres. Number two, Xanadu from A Farewell to Kings. Number three, 2112 from 2112. Number four, Anthem from Fly By Night. Number five, Circumstances from Hemispheres. Number six, Witch Hunt from the Moving Pictures album. Number seven, La Villa Strangiato from the Hemispheres record. Number 8, A Farewell to Kings from Farewell to Kings. Number 9, The Spirit of Radio from Permanent Waves. And number 10, Lakeside Park from Carrots of Steel. So yeah, guys, that's it with my top 10, the ranking of my favorite Rush songs. Really had a fun time doing this. It's really important to engage what you like, and what you're passionate about. And yeah, I definitely want to do another show like this on another band I love, and that definitely a lot to choose from. Yeah, I hope you have a great day, and thank you for listening. In case anybody is indeed listening.